This is the Hidden Killers podcast with Tony Brueski,
featuring former FBI Special Agent and Chief of the Counterintelligence Behavioral Analysis Program, Dreeke.
The trial of Chad Daybell still underway. We're hearing from lots of people, from Lori's niece to Zulema Pastenis, who we saw in the original Lori Daybell trial. You may remember her. She still, I think, kind of holds on to those beliefs a little bit of magical powers. In her testimony the other day, they asked her, do you believe you can control the weather? I'm paraphrasing here. And she had to pause for a moment to kind of think about it. It wasn't an immediate, no, that was bad thoughts back then. It was kind of like, do I still have that power? It kind of makes you wonder about the legitimacy of all of her testimony when someone has those sort of magical beliefs. But it seems like most people in that circle did. Joining me to discuss, Dreeke, retired FBI special agent. Just a whole lot of magic that we hear from some of these witnesses. If you didn't know anything about the case and you just were reading about the testimony, I think you'd wonder, is this like a real case or what's going on here?
No doubt. What continues to strike me about this is, Chad is pretending and stating that he had the ability to, have commune with the other side through this magical portal that tells him about evil spirits and all these things and gives him knowledge of events coming up. That's why he could predict the deaths of people and all that. I truly don't think he believes his own words. Yeah. I think he was doing it as one big ploy, but the tragedy in this whole thing is everyone else around him believed every piece of garbage that came out of his mouth, because he seemed completely rational with a complete lack of empathy with dealing with any human being except serving his own needs. And I think that just keeps getting highlighted more and more. It's interesting listening to these testimonies because it clearly undermines the individual's credibility. Mm-hmm. I think when people are getting up there saying about controlling weather and dark spirits and all that, but at the same time, it might undermine them, but it's really undermining Chad.
Yeah.
And because it's really showing that dude was out there, and yet when he presents himself, he's pretty by comparison, he says crazy stuff, but you can tell it's just a line coming out of his mouth. Mm-hmm. These people are all 100% bought into it. And that's why when we talked last time, if he goes on to stand, that'll be really interesting.
He's like a doofus who realized the power that he wielded to these followers. And I think he realized he could say almost anything to them and they would go along with it. And that totally was something different for him in his life, because I think he's kind of lived a life of mediocrity and just was, nobody gave a crap about what he said or what he did. But suddenly he has this power and he went and used it. And it's not just Lori was the ringleader here. Lori was nuts, but she was nuts because of her own issues, but was nuts enough to believe anything that Chad would say. Lori's niece was on the stand, Melanie Pulowski, talking about some of the castings that Chad Daybell was putting out there. And I also find it interesting because we're going to hear about the relationship that was going on or was being groomed at the time. Let's take a look.
Would you say at some point you developed a close relationship with Chad?
Yes.
At some point, did you eventually begin referring to him as Dad?
Yes.
At some point, did Lori and Chad begin sharing teachings with you or their purported beliefs?
Yes.
Do you recall them sharing some teachings regarding light and dark?
Yes.
Do you know where those ideas were originating from?
I believe they came from Chad.
Do you recall what they taught you or told you in relation to light and dark?
From what I remember, Chad was said to have a gift to spiritually discern, and he could see light and dark, or if a person had good intentions, but that he could see through and had that gift.
Wow. It's a lot to wrap one's mind around. And I still kind of go back to going, okay, this person wasn't necessarily, in their lives a lot, eventually did become, and how easy it was for them to just, oh, okay, well, this is how it works. I'm going to go along with that and believe it. It's it's disturbing. It's bizarre, but it's an interesting testament to how our minds can work when you really want to be part of something.
I think this is fantastic. And here's why. When we were looking at the Lori case and they were prosecuting her, they painted her to be the charismatic nut job that she is. And I thought they were going to be able to use that as a defense for Chad saying she's a charismatic nut job. This is completely undermining any sense of defense of that. This is showing he's even a bigger nut job.
Yeah.
She's just crazy. He's just witting. He knew exactly what he was doing, and she was just another duped, crazy follower. And every single person that gets up here and says all the things that he was doing, and you can see their complete buy-in to his garbage. It completely undermines any defense that you and I theorized they might try to do of, putting it all on Lori and poor Chad. Nope, not whatsoever. And it's what really struck me as well this week was the rationalizing he would do for people dying that the portal was telling him was going to happen, but they're going to be reborn. So he's rationalizing, they're not really dying. They're just being reborn again because the way I make my living is by their insurance.
Yes.
He set himself completely up in his new line of work of insurance fraud guy and rationalizing, I'm not actually killing anyone because they're going to be reincarnated. That's how he sold this to absolutely everyone.
Yeah, it was a way that they could legitimize it. And we're going to hear that clip in just a little bit. That was from Zulema.
Sorry, jumped on you.
Oh, no, you're fine. Here's more from Lori's niece talking about people dying because they turned dark. Let's take a look.
Yeah.
There was some type of darkness that you couldn't cast out. And so if this, that the Lord in his due time would have to take, that person would pass away because this darkness was too much or something like that.
So if someone were to be possessed and with a strong enough entity, essentially the body would have to die.
Judge, that's leading. Calls for speculation.
That's a sustain on leading.
If someone became too dark, would the body have to die?
Judge, leading.
Overruled.
I believe so. That I think that was their idea, that they would pass away because they couldn't have this darkness inside them.
I mean, how convenient. Anybody you don't like, anybody opposing you, they're dark. They're gonna have to die. It's the Lord's will.
Kind of funny too how the only dark people were the ones that had insurance policies.
That's true.
What a crazy coincidence. Me, man.
Yeah.
I am so glad that they have all these people coming up on a stand because they're not coming up to defend anything. They're coming up to really show the maliciousness, the nastiness of this individual and both of them together and what the level of destruction they caused. And continue their teachings of their crazy is continuing to negatively impact all these lives. Just look at the buy-in she has to all these things.
Oh, completely.
Tragedy.
Here she is talking about the labeling of course, here's another opposing force, law enforcement, as they started to be investigated they must be dark too. Because what else would they be?
At some point, did you have conversations with Chad and Lori about law enforcement?
Yes.
What did they tell you in relation to law enforcement?
They told me that law enforcement was corrupt and that they were after them and that they couldn't be trusted.
At some point, do you recall if specific law enforcement officers were identified as dark by Chad and Lori?
Yes.
Who were those officers?
Detective Aramasio and I want to say Detective Hope. Is that? I'm not sure if that's right. There was somebody who was related to Tammy's family, I think.
Makes you wonder what sort of plots they were going and working behind the scenes to eliminate those officers if they had a chance.
They really did a great job of explaining away death to their followers so that they would never be questioned. I mean, it was insanity genius is what that was, because then when people started dying and disappearing, including their own children, they were able to explain it all away on a belief system that they were already indoctrinated into. And then it just verified to their followers that, hey, look, I'm a soothsayer. I can see the future because I said they were dark, and look, oh my gosh, they died.
Oh, what a coincidence! It's the Lord's will. It's how it should be. It's interesting. Melanie's husband, Ian, took the stand to talk about some of the strange religious beliefs, and the one that he kind of questioned about Chad, and then kind of said to Melanie, "We may want to back away from these two a little bit." Here's his testimony.
In addition to giving me a blessing, or saying they approve of me marrying Melanie, they gave me a religious blessing.
Was anything strange about the religious blessing to you?
It was unorthodox based on the LDS beliefs that I held at the time. He talked about shielding me with light, removing dark weapons from me.
Initially, were you somewhat open to some of the ideas she was sharing?
Yes.
How long did you remain open to those ideas?
Until the night we got married.
What changed that night?
The weight of what she was sharing, the implications of what she was sharing. It was just hearing that she feared that Tylee and JJ may have been in danger at that time. And the behavior that she was seeing from Chad and Lori at that time.
It's amazing how long it takes for some individuals to kind of go, hey, maybe this isn't all it's cracked up to be.
Well, it was interesting too, is earlier on, they're saying, they're already talking, they're part of their indoctrination doctrine was to sensitize you towards the words dark and dark weapons. Mm-hmm. That way they could set you up for whatever way they needed you to go down. In other words, I guarantee you, if they found out that he had a great insurance policy, oh my gosh, we tried purging you of your dark weapons, but they've overcome you.
Uh-huh.
And it's that's what would have happened.
Yeah. I mean, it's not that complicated when you look at it from Chad's perspective. I mean, it just seems twisted. They had all the magical beliefs in there. But for Chad, it's just like, well, we got to do this to justify this, to make them think that. I mean, it's all about manipulating people.
And what's really not even more striking, but continues to be striking about this is do you ever get a sense that they were actually close to anyone?
No.
No matter what the familiar relationship was, there's no one in their entire family, as evidence that they killed their own kids, that was immune from the dark forces or the darkness coming at you if you had something they wanted or you stood in their way.
They feel there was
zero relationship that could survive them.
It feels like a multi-level marketing scheme relationship in some ways, where it's like 100%. It's just there for our own benefit, and you'll get the benefits too. Just wait and see.
I guarantee you, at some point, if they hadn't been caught, that part of the indoctrination into their cult would be that in order to come into our cult, you have to come in with an insurance policy.
Yes, and the assets must be signed off to Chad and Lori.
Yes, and that way we will decide at some point whether you're full of the darkness or the lightness. And if we start having some financial issues, I guarantee you're going to be going down the dark road.
Exactly.
Sick of the ads?
We are too.
Start listening with no commercials now and get access to all of our episodes in advance of everyone else.
Become a True Crime Today Premium Plus subscriber on Apple Podcasts.
Search True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts or go to our podcast page and sign up now.
True Crime Today Premium Plus.
Sign up now.